I want you to look at something right now. Think of some major goal you want, or maybe it's one you're already working on and you have experienced a lot of setbacks, a lot of defeats. You've experienced a lot of disappointment. Maybe you've already given up, and maybe you just need a little fire, a little encouragement to get back in the game again. Here's what I want you to look at. There are winners, there are losers, and there are people who have not discovered how to win. And all they need is some coaching. All they need is some help and assistance, just a little support. All they need is some insight or a different strategy, a plan of action to make some adjustments that will open up the key to a whole new future for them, that will give them access to the unlimited power that they have within themselves. That's all that they need. So what I want you to do is think about something you want for you, that's real for you, that's important for you, that will give your life some special meaning and power. And I don't even want you to say, I can do that. I don't want you to assume that. See, 5 years ago when I started out in this area, I would not have been able to make the mental leap that I would be up to where I am right now. I don't want you to begin to just psych yourself out. No. I want you to be able to say something to yourself that will enable you to maintain a level of integrity with yourself. That when you say this, even when you face tremendous setbacks, it will be a benchmark to keep you in the game, to keep you moving forward and experimenting and readjusting your strategy and your plan of action, continuously looking for ways to win. So what is that something? When you got an idea you want to move on, you might not have the money, you might not have the education, you might not have the support or the resources you need. What is that something that can keep us going, that will enable us to act on our dream? What's one of those keys that will begin to help us to discover the secrets to our dream? Here's what I want you to repeat after me, please, with power and conviction. Say, it's possible. That's all I want you to do when you look at your dream. Just say to yourself every day, it's possible. Just say that every day to yourself, it's possible. Because what does that do? See, it begins to change your belief system. See, the way in which we operate, ladies and gentlemen, it's a manifestation of what we believe, what's possible for us. Whatever you've done up to this point, all that it really is a duplication, it's a reproduction of what you believe subconsciously that you deserve and what's possible for your life. Most people operate out of their personal history, out of their memory, things they have done, things they've experienced, things they've seen, things that they have observed. What I'm suggesting that you operate out of a larger vision of yourself. I want you to see yourself doing what you want to do, experiencing what you want to experience, having what you want to have, doing what it is that gives your life some meaning and value. Operate out of your imagination, not your memory. Because whenever you look at where you want to go, I'm wanting to warn you, you will have some conversation back here after you go through the data that you've experienced in life saying you can't do it. And so what you want to begin to do is ignore that inner conversation. Well, most people, ladies and gentlemen, when something happens to them, what they do is they begin to believe that that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. And they can't see the possibility of it being any different. Example, before April 1954, the common belief, the universal belief, because it had been tried again and again and again and people had failed, the belief was that man was not physically capable of breaking the 4-minute barrier, that he could not run a mile in less than 4 minutes. That was the belief on the planet. It had never been done. But here's what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Roger Bannister came along and he broke the 4-minute barrier. Now here's what's significant about that. Since that time, up to this day, over 20,000 people have done it, including high school kids. What changed? 20,000 people, what changed? Here's what happened when they got on the track. They knew it had been done. And because they knew it had been done, there was a new belief about this barrier, about this goal that was unreachable. And those 20,000 people got in a race believing, knowing in their heart that someone had done it, that it's possible, that they could do it. And I'm saying that if you know anybody that had some goal, some dream, something they wanted to do, and they did it, then I'm saying that you know in your heart that if someone has done it, then you can do it. It's possible. And that if someone can make their dream become a reality, that it's possible that you can make your dream become reality. And so as you begin to look at where you want to go, beginning to embrace that, it's possible. I'm blessed and highly favored. I've got a lot going for me. I got some good stuff in me. And it's possible that I can bring my greatness out here in the universe, that I can do what I want to do. It's possible I can write my own book. I can have my own business. I can take the trip and travel around the world. It's possible. I can bounce back from adversity and reinvent my life. It's possible. Regardless of where I am, the things can get better for me. It's possible. And I'm thinking about two men right here in Chicago who are fairly successful, similar background, educated. They worked for a corporation for many years, and they were among many people that were laid off. Two guys who were very good friends. One went out looking for a job for several weeks along with the other one, and they faced disappointment and rejection again and again and again. They couldn't find any work, which is the story of many people across this country. One guy stopped. He became discouraged. He stopped going. He stayed home looking at television, became very argumentative and toxic with his wife, drinking beer, getting on the phone, talking to his other negative, unemployed friends. And he just gave up. The other guy kept looking for a job everywhere he could go. Every time he could get an opportunity, kept asking people, networking, checking the newspapers every day, kept going everywhere he could, trying to find a job. You have too much education. You're overqualified. You won't be here long enough. He kept going. He kept going. He went to a place and said, look here, I tell you what, if you can't hire me, and I know you can use my talents, abilities, and skills, I don't want to sit home and do nothing. Just let me do some volunteer work. You don't have to give me anything, all right? I just want to work. I want to be busy. Guy said, okay, it's on you now, but don't expect me to give you anything. It's okay. This guy came in and worked. He was the first one there. The last one to leave was the best employee there. About 4 weeks later, one of the top managers quit. They were looking for a replacement. Guess who they selected? This other guy. This guy who was volunteering his time. He got the job. What was the difference between the two men? Eyesight and mindsight. Eyesight is judging on what you see, judging according to appearances. But mindsight is how you interpret what you see. One guy said, it's not possible, it's over, I'm finished. I can't do it. I can't make it. He surrendered. I've faced rejection again and again. I'm not going anymore. There are no jobs out there. But this other guy, he felt that in spite of the no's and rejections, in spite of how bad the economy is, in spite of what the newspapers are saying, that it's possible that somebody somewhere will give me a job. He just kept going, thinking it was possible. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's what we have to do with our dreams. Because things happen to you in life that you can never, ever anticipate. And many times when those things happen, you want to give up. I remember when I was in broadcasting, when I was a disc jockey, I became very controversial, not only being a disc jockey, but I felt that radio was something that you not only entertain people with, but you also empower them, you educate them. And I got fired. I didn't just leave, they fired me. That was a shock. I said, wait a minute. They took my microphone. I thought that was who I was. No, ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't. I had to do something else. And I didn't know what else I could do. See, here's what I'm looking at. what are the uses for your life right now that you haven't even reached for yet? See, I believe that when you don't have enough encouragement to act on your dreams or ideas, or you're not enlightened enough, that life will act on you. See, life had moved on me and said, Les Brown, you have outgrown this. It's time for you to do something else. Well, I wasn't enlightened enough. I organized some disc jockeys and got my job back. So they had to fire me again. I got fired twice. Here's what I did. I had to think of something else. And so a guy suggested to me, he said, Les, why don't you run for office? I said, man, I've never run for office. I've never known anything about how to operate in the political arena. I've encouraged people to register to vote and get out to vote, but I don't know anything about politics. He said, neither do the people who run for office all the time. So I ran. Now here's what I'm suggesting. I ran. You got to do what you can where you are with what you have. I didn't have any money. I didn't know anything about the political process. I didn't even have any support. But here's what the guy told me. It's possible you could win. That's all I had. I was running against an endorsed candidate. He was an incumbent. He had the newspaper support, all of the leadership in the community, and I was challenging this guy. So I had a saying when I was on radio, stand up for what you believe in because you can fall for anything. And I would go door to door. I have my kids on one side of the street. I would be on the other, and I'd knock on doors. Hello, my name is Les Brown. Tell everybody I'm still standing. They get on the phone. Child, Les Brown was to my house today. You know the boy on the radio with the big mouth? Yeah, they fired him, honey. Say he's still standing. See, I'm saying just keep moving. Don't start feeling sorry for yourself. Don't spend time blaming and talking about what happened to you. See, whatever you talk about, that's what you multiply and expand in your life experience. So don't talk about stuff unless you want it to keep on happening to you, all right? So I got in that kind of action. As I continue to do that, had my children with me, we're going door to door, didn't have enough money. Eventually, we got close to the election and something happened that really surprised me. Guys who I thought were going to either support me or stay out of it, various powerful community leaders, they became involved in it and they endorsed my opponent. I felt devastated. Now that's going to happen to you when you're working on your dream. Things are going to happen that's going to catch you on the blind side. That was shocking to me. They didn't have to do that. All they had to do was just stay out of it. But here they go, come up in there messing with me. Now that's going to happen. There's some people who believe it's their personal business to stop you from living your dream, all right? But I didn't deal with that. You want to make your dream come true, you got to stay focused. Some people rather get even than get ahead. Stay focused on where you want to go. I just kept on doing what I was supposed to do. And so I was driving to the radio station. My opponent had over $20,000. I had less than $800. As I was in the radio station, the guy said, "You're going to make a commercial?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It better be a good one because that money can't go pretty far here." And I sat there in the middle control room and I was thinking, and here's what happens when you get still. Stuff will start coming. Something said, call your mama. You used to talk about your mother on the air all the time. Ask her to say a few words for you. That'll be a different kind of political spot. So I called my mama, and I had a gospel record playing in the background. And then I had my mother say, "Hello, this is Mrs. Mamie Brown. When I raised my sons, I raised them to be good children. When they got out of hand, I beat their behind and made them go right. Please vote for my son. He's a good boy." Usually in the state representative race, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people will come out to vote in a primary. In that primary race, over 27,000 people came out and voted and said, "I'm voting for Les Brown because his mama said he's a good boy." I won, ladies and gentlemen. I won. So you've got to be willing to stay focused, to be creative, to be relentless, because things are going to happen to you when you're working on your dream. When you get on track. I remember when I first got involved in speaking, one of the main things that speakers like to do is speak to a certain association that they have over 10,000 of their sales reps that come to this convention. And I was relentless. I kept saying, it's possible. It's possible. See, what I want to let you know and set you up for, because you say it's possible, don't mean that you're not going to have any problems. That Murphy's Law ain't going to come and slap you side the head. Old Murphy going to come visit you. He's waiting for some of y'all out in the parking lot. Oh, you say it's possible. Okay, it's possible. You're going to get up. Well, I was working. I kept saying it's possible. They got other speakers on this program. I can be on that program too. I kept selling myself. I got all fired up. And I was calling them every day. And the lady finally said, Mr. Brown, I tell you what, we want you to come in and talk to our sales executives. You got the kind of fire and guts that they want, that will motivate them. And let me tell you something else. We want you to bring your motivational tapes. You're going to need at least $50,000 worth of tapes. I said, is that right? Yes, because they want to keep that drive alive. I said, all right. I called the guy to duplicate my tapes. I said, Don, how you doing? This is Les. Let me tell you, I got a major speaking engagement. I said, man, it's a speaker's dream. I need over $50,000 worth of product. He said, Les, you don't have that kind of credit. I said, I know, but darn, I can sell that. Just right after speaking engagement, I'll give you your money in 4 days. He said, are you sure, Les? I said, yes, but I got a major speaking engagement, and they told me to do it. He said, man, that's a big order. Let me talk with the lady with you. I said, hold on just a minute, man. Call the lady back. Hello, Evelyn, how you doing? This is Les Brown. I got Don on the phone. What did you say? Do I have the speaking engagement? Yes, you do. And what else you suggest? Les, our people, they buy a lot of tapes. Your tapes are very popular among them. I'm saying bring at least $50,000 worth of tapes, Les. You'll sell everything you got and more. I said, did you hear that, Don? He said, yes. I said, now, if anybody else has to make a decision, are you the final person? She said, I'm the final person. I will send you the contract. I want you. I said, you hear that, Don? He said, yes. I said, oh, ye of little faith. I said, duplicate the tapes, man. Hung the phone up. Well, he duplicated the tapes. 1 week came by. I'm checking the mail every day. No contract. I said, come on, Murphy, don't start nothing, man. Come on. Come on, man, give me a break. Come on, you know, this ain't fair. Come on, man. Give your boy a break, come on. I talked to myself, you know. I didn't want to call him right then. 2 weeks passed by. Murphy said, don't you think you ought to call him? I said, okay. I called, I said, hello, this is Les Brown calling. How you doing, Les? I said, fine. I said, Evelyn hasn't sent my contract out yet. Any additional information you need? So, Les, you haven't heard? I said, no. I said, Evelyn died. I said, she died? I said, did she say anything about me? When I got home, I was so wiped out. And Murphy was in the house waiting on me. Murphy said, is it possible you want to listen to some of your tapes? Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I had to do. I had to begin to focus on what was the solution. That this was not the only place that I'll be able to sell those products. And as I began to challenge myself and got some help and support and some other input, I eventually did. It took longer, but it was challenging. But I did it. Repeat after me, please. No matter how bad it is, or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, you got that right. Repeat after me, please. It's possible. I can have my dream. I can get what I want. I must be creative. And never give up.
How do we develop a sense of belief? What I'm hearing you say is belief is one of the most important things we can have in ourselves.
It is major. It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process. One, I encourage people to read at a minimum of 30 to 40 pages of something positive every day to program your mind, and all of us can do that. We can go to the library and check out books. When I think about Og Mandino, who wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, he was on the verge of committing suicide, went to the library, read the book Think and Grow Rich, and his life turned around. So reading and programming ourselves, the reason that most people should do that, psychologists say that 86% of our self-talk is negative, and it goes undetected by the conscious mind. That's why we're taught, be ye not conformed to this world, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Listen to recordings and things that are positive. Go on YouTube and find things that will begin to empower you. And minimize the distractions in your life. We have so many distractions. The weapons of mass distractions cause most people not to begin to live their lives from the inside out, but from the outside in. You know, there's an African proverb that said, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. Shakespeare said, the forte of Brutus is not in our stars, but in ourselves, and we are underlings. So you have to program yourself, or your mind will be programmed. The other thing is that have goals that's beyond your comfort zone, because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. You've got to become a risk taker. Viscott said, if you're not willing to risk, you can't grow. And if you can't grow, you can't become your best. And if you can't become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? And the other thing is upgrade your relationships. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. You've got to look at the people in your life and ask, what is this relationship doing to me? There are many people, because of the toxic, negative, energy-draining people in their lives, they will never be successful, because those toxic relationships will compromise their power. There's a new term in psychology, in psychiatry, called relational illness. There's some people that can make you sick. Now, some people might say, Les, can we change them? No. It's a full-time job changing yourself. And there's some people that's so negative, they can walk into a dark room and begin to develop. Oh, behave. You're a little slow. That's all right.
I heard it. I got it. I went to photography class in high school where we used to have the developing stages.
They don't do that anymore.
They don't do it anymore.
No,
yes.
Polaroid. You know, yes.
Do you know if there's another father and daughter duo that do what you do anywhere in the world? I'm trying to think. Is there anyone?
I don't know. I've
we're
never
the
seen
first
that.
family of motivation.
Yes.
You are?
Yeah.
So you must be enormously proud of her.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, but here's the shocking part. Are you ready for it? She's also my coach.
No, shut up, really?
She said to me one day, Daddy, are you coachable? I'm saying to myself, I know she's not asking me. I won the highest award from Toastmasters International, inducted into the National Speakers Hall of Fame, and selected among the top 5 speakers in the world. You're gonna ask me, am I coachable by you? So I said, yes, I am, reluctantly. And then she pointed out something in my presentation that I've been doing for years. And I became very humble. I said, you got a point. And I made the adjustment that she told me. And it made all the difference in the world. So I said, well, will you coach me forever?
Oh, wow.
And I don't invoice them either. But I think this is a good point. I want to bring this out because I think Spencer can do something with this, because I love your mind, the way it thinks, right? So Dad used to say in his presentation for years that one of the hardest things that he did, one of the easiest things he ever did was to earn $1 million. One of the hardest things he ever did was to believe it could happen to him. And so I said in the coaching, I said, Dad, when you say it could happen to you, it's almost as if you're positioning as if you won the lotto. There's no ownership. I said, it didn't happen to you. You studied you journaled, you did the work, you went to workshops, you took training, you went to stages and spoke for sometimes chicken dinners. Like, you paid dues and you had this vision that you built and developed. And so it's not that it happened to you, it's that the easiest thing you ever did was to earn $1 million. The hardest thing you ever did was to believe that you could do it. He said, whoa.
Yes.
And
That's
then he
real.
shifted. He never said that again, but he had been saying that for years and no one caught it.
A lot of people don't identify with that either, do they? It's kind of like the apprenticeship as you go through it. They don't realize what they're learning along the way.
Right.
And also, a lot of people don't feel like they're worth it.
Right.
They don't feel like they have any inherent value. And so because they don't feel they have a value, they can't always believe what's possible. Does that make sense to you?
Totally.
Yes, the area of feeling deserving is so major, particularly if you live in a culture where you've been marginalized and your sense of self has been destroyed. There's a guy named Richard Wright who wrote, he was a very profound thinker and poet. He said, the impulse to dream has been slowly beaten out of me through the experiences of life. And because of what he went through, he wrote a book called The Invisible Man, that he had lost his sense of self and he didn't even think about dreaming because of life was so brutal to him to keep him down. And so there are so many people around the world. I'm looking at things on television about slavery and people being kidnapped and sex slaves and all these types of things. Dehumanization is more prevalent now than ever before. Or yes, we're just exposed to the information on it.
Right.
And so we have a lot of work to do. And in the work that we're doing, my goal is, I believe that we should speak to bring life and to give hope, because when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present. And that we're very fortunate to be here and to be able to still make a difference, to build a legacy. We feel that evil prevails when good men and women do nothing. And so we see speaking from a perspective that is cause-centered. I believe it's been hijacked by speaking to sell. But I believe that when you speak, you distract, dispute, and inspire. How people live their lives as a result of the story they believe about themselves. And so you distract them from that story. Through the execution of your speaking, you create an experience that allow them to begin to see themselves differently, to get out of their history into their imagination. You expand their minds, you touch their heart and ignite their spirit. And they leave there being, as Mother Teresa would say, a pencil in the hand of God, and start writing a new chapter in their lives.
That's really profound to me. Tony Robbins was talking to me about Operation Underground Railroad with the children and the people that are brought out of sex slavery.
Yes.
And what they do. And that's the fastest growing criminal network in the world.
Yes.
And those people that have been exposed to that and experienced that, first of all, don't look at what the future looks like. They just dwell on the scenario and the environment that they've been involved with. And they do need to be inspired. They do need to, and as you just described it there just beautifully, ignite that fire back in them, because there's a lot of people that have gone through a lot of tough times.
Yes.
And a lot of us don't remember how lucky we are. A lot of the times we take for granted, don't we? And we dwell on our sorrows. And these types of people that come from that place and build again, are always going to need support. And people like you, I believe, give that inspiration to people. I mean, think about it, those motivational videos that you see on YouTube, 1 in a million doesn't have your voice on. All of the others do. They're you. And so your voice moves people, It impregnates people in some part of their body, their mind somehow, and makes them want to charge forward. And that's a very powerful and strong place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that who you are behind the words that you speak, when I'm training speakers, and that's where my life is now, you learn, you earn, you pass it on. And when I'm working with speakers, I say to them, who you are behind the words are far more important than the words that you speak. And so it's very important we first work on the messenger, and then on the message. I'm merely an inspirational speaker for a Jewish carpenter, but that's another conversation, all right? So, but self-development, that we have people speaking and inspiring people to live their dreams, and they haven't done anything.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
So you want to raise the bar on yourself. You want to be the example. You want to be the message. You want to be congruent with the words that you're speaking. Don't practice what you preach, but preach what you practice.
How did you overcome the cancer? And I know this wasn't your first battle, this was your second, correct? Mm-hmm. How did you overcome that? Who did you have to be? Because I heard you quote a stat, and I hope that you quote it today, about our immune system. And how did you say, no, I'm debt-free, I'm cancer-free, and I'm drama-free? How did you do that?
The oncologist, he was a bad brother who graduated from Howard University. His name was Mr. Golson. Mm-hmm. And so he said, Mr. Brown, I got some bad news. What is it? You have cancer. Oh. I said, whoa. I said, is there anything else? He said, yes. It's metastasized to 7 areas of your body. Oh. I said, wow. He said, why are you smiling? I said, man, 7 is my lucky number. Wow. I'm one of 7 children. I was born February the 17th. Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times. Naaman dipped himself in the river Jordan 7 times. I said, is there anything else? He said, yes. I said, what? He said, and you're ugly too. Did you get
lies?
He said, but you got this. He said, I never tell my patients they're terminally ill. What I say is that my skills, my abilities have terminated. I determine the diagnosis, you and God determine the prognosis. And a verdict, as we look at ourselves, the verdicts of what take place in our lives are not determined by the facts. It's determined by us, our faith, our heart, and our willingness to do what's required in order for us to be here. Being here is not a gift.
Oh, so good. I heard you said something along the lines of our immune system drops. What was that percentage?
When someone looks at you and say that you have a terminal illness, your capacity of your immune system to protect you drops by 40%. Wow. In the UK, they don't even allow doctors to say that you are terminally ill anymore. Because of the area of psychoneuroimmunology, words have power. That's why in the Bible it says, death and life is in the tongue. That we speak too much death as opposed to speaking life. Yeah. And a diagnosis is not a verdict.
Yes.
Yes, and so there are some people, they leave as a result of hearing those words. And what he said, I determine the diagnosis, you and God determine the prognosis.
Yes.
And that works for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a friend who I talked to yesterday. She was told, because she had breast cancer, that she was terminally ill. And she said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, you have 6 months. And she said, listen to me. She said, you determine the diagnosis. God determines the timetable. Stay in your lane.
Ooh.
And that was 8 years ago. Come
on,
somebody.
Wow. Wow, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
She said, stay in your lane.
Oh, I have goosebumps. Because people so often, the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Yes.
And he talks about drifters, right?
Yes.
Because so many people are drifting inside of their lives and they're never really certain about most things. They allow the people, the places, the things, the opinions, the judgments, the diagnosis to tell them who and how they're going to be, and then they choose to believe it. But wow, you just, how powerful it is to just know this is, you can say whatever you want, but this is what I'm believing. And sometimes we win that battle and sometimes we don't.
And we have to work consciously. Reading, having a ritual like you have,
yes.
I have.
Yes.
Reading something positive every day,
yes.
30 or 40 pages. Listening to messages that are designed to empower us. Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, if you can determine what a man should think,
yes.
you never have to concern yourself with what he will do.
Oh.
He said, if you can make a man feel inferior, you never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. And if you can make a man feel justly an outcast, You never have to order him to go to the back door. He'll go without being told. And if there's no door, his very nature will demand one. I spoke in a prison in Ohio, and these young guys came in sagging their pants. I said, hey, what y'all call that? I'm an old man. They said sagging. I said, wow. I said, how you spell it? They said, what, sagging? Yeah, S-A-G-G-I-N. I said, wow. If you can determine what a man should think, you never have to concern yourself with what he would do. I said, spell it again. And they said, S-A-G-G-I-N. I said, now spell it backwards.
Oh.
They got quiet. I said, I'm here to eliminate a virus, HIV, hood-infected virus, AIDS, addiction to incarceration and death syndrome. Don't come for me. I didn't call an Uber.
I'm ready to cry right now. Oh my gosh. Oh, sheesh, that just hit my soul. And we subscribe, like, whose story are you subscribing to?
Come on now.
And then when you teach people, okay, you don't have to choose this story.
That's right.
If I want to learn about Les Brown, I'm not going to go learn about how to knit kitten hats. You know, like, it's just not what you do. You have to be in alignment with what it is that you want. I have to ask you, do you feel like you are mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, physically, energetically as strong as you are now because of your upbringing? I know that they say there's nothing like having a praying woman in your life.
Come on now.
And I know that Miss Mamie Brown, you know, I know.
You know, I always say all that I am and all that I hope to be, I owe to my mother,
Yes.
Mrs. Mamie Brown. And God took me out of my biological womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. I'm adopted. My birth parents I discovered last year, they're like 45 minutes from here. I was conceived in Gainesville, Georgia, but my birth mother came down to Miami to give birth to us and put us up for foster care and then adoption. And what I now sing, I used to end my speeches by saying, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. My birth mother's name is Dorothy Bell Rucker. She was a motivational speaker. And they have a museum for my grandmother. Her name is Beulah Rucker. So now I said, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy and Dorothy Bell Rucker's pride and joy. I've got two mothers and I'm not ashamed. I've got two mothers and I love them just the same. If you close your eyes, I sound just like John Legend.
You sound smooth for sure. Wow. What do you think was the biggest lesson? I have one moment that happened in my life with my mom. She wasn't even teaching. It was just experiencing my mom being the most resilient that I had ever seen her. My dad ruptured a disc in his back when I was about 10 years old. My mom was trying to make sure that we weren't homeless. She was going to school full-time to get her master's in engineering, had a full-time job, all of us kids, my dad's injury, and her own life. You know, so there's a lot of weight on her shoulders. And I think of a story of one time I accidentally saw her in the middle of the night crying over her homework by herself in the kitchen at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And in that moment, I like slunk back to my bedroom because I couldn't imagine my mom seeing me see her being weak. But what I didn't know was that was actually one of the strongest points I had ever seen my mom at, because here she is in the middle of the night, literally sobbing over her homework. And then in a few hours, she'd have to have all of us up to go to school. And she always would smile. My mom has poise. Like, she comes with joy. I'm sorry if I cry. But she used to sing this song where she'd try to wake us up in the morning and she'd say, get out of that bed and wash your face and hands. Get into the kitchen and shake them pots and pans. Or she'd have gospel playing or something going on. And she always had incredible energy, you know, like, she's just such a gem. And I've heard a lot of gems about your mom, and Mrs. Mamie Brown. I heard through your story, but do you have a story like that where it was literally like, this is the moment that I understand resilience, not because of what I read in a book or heard in a story, but because I experienced it with this person?
Oh, absolutely. It was a deciding point in my life. I was downtown with my mother, and I think I was probably around 4 or 5, and it was very hot. And so I saw one water fountain, and I ran up to the water fountain and started drinking water. And my mother said, "Leslie, stop that!" And she grabbed me by the shirt and neck and threw me on the ground.
Oh.
And she started hitting me with her fist with a crazed look in her eyes. And I'm saying, "Mama, it's me, Mama, it's me, it's me." And then a white policeman came over, and he was hitting a nightstick in his hand. He said, "Okay, you beat that little nigger boy enough. He's learned his lesson." And he walked away, and he looked at me, and he was laughing. And Mama hit me in the head and in my mouth and my eye. And he said, "I had to learn you better." And my mother said, "Leslie, I'm so sorry." She said, "He was coming towards you with that nightstick. His face was red with anger. And had he hit you, he would have had to kill me. I had to do that to distract him. I'm so sorry." And I was still crying. I said, "Mama," I said, "It's okay." He said, "You hit me over here. You kissed me over there, right there." She said, "This is making well." She said, "Okay." I said, "Over here, right here." And we both started laughing and crying at the same time. But she put herself in a position. She had to decide that if this man hits my son, he will have to kill me. And she said, that said to me, she's willing to die for me.
Yes.
And it taught me the value of courage. The Bible says, "Be of good courage." And courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to act in spite of the fear. Does that make sense?
Oh, perfectly.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, behave.
Oh, wow. I love it. Wow, wow, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have to ask, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I love talking about family and speaking. You spent some time in politics.
Yes.
How was that? Why was that?
That was fascinating. When I was a state legislator, I used to have voter registration drives and get people out to vote. At one time, we turned out 95% of the vote in every black precinct in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
So when I was fired for editorializing about police brutality, which was unprecedented during that time, and the 2 white police officers who were fired, they fired me for that. And then a friend named Horace Perkins, he came to my house. He said, "Hey, I want you to sign this." And I believe God put angels in your life. He brought these petitions. He went around and got signatures for me to run for the Ohio legislature. So I signed it. But I said, "But Perkins, I don't know anything about politics." He said, "Neither do the people who run."
So true.
So I ran and I won. And I passed 14 bills my first term.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yes, but let me tell you how I got elected. Went to the radio station on Friday before Tuesday.
Yeah.
And my opponent had over $40,000. I had about $600. And so Perkins, who was a salesman at the radio station, he said, "Come in here, come in the control room. This is where you come and your ideas flow," because I used to make my own commercials. And something came to me and said, "Call your mom." Because I just couldn't come on the air and say, "Hi, I'm Les Brown. I want to encourage you to vote for me." I just couldn't bring myself to do that. So I said, "Mama," because I always talked about my mother when I was on the air. I said, "I'm running for the state legislature and I need you to do something for me." She said, "You've been running your mouth and you got fired, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. But Mama, I need you to say something for me." She said, "Leslie, I don't want to be in that mess. I don't know what that is." I said, "Mama, I'll give you $500. She said, "Boy, you better send it Western Union." And so I said, "I don't need you to talk long. Just say what's in your heart. Just make it 30 seconds." she said, okay, now don't forget, send me my money today, I'll come for you.
Right. I
So
like her.
She said, hello, this is Mrs. Mamie Brown. When I raised my boys, I raised them to be good boys. When they got out of hand, I beat their behinds. Please vote for my son. He's a good boy. And I won. Usually you get 3,000 votes in a state representative race. I got over 26,000 votes. People were coming to the polls that I wasn't even in their district saying, Les Brown's mama said he was a good boy. I want to vote for him. Many people would not come out of the poll because they couldn't see my name. They had to call the police on it. Yeah. But it was just that if you have a heart-centered message, I tell speakers, don't let what you want to say get in the way of what your audience needs to hear.
Oh.
Find out about them.
Yes.
What is it that they're looking for? Because when you speak to an audience, someone one-on-one, small group, or large group, they're asking 3 questions. Who are you? What do you have? And can I trust you? Okay. Because people don't buy from you, they buy into you. And so, so I train speakers how to speak from the heart and expand the vision of the audience to get out of their history to step into their imagination. The imagination is where everything takes place. He said the scripture, I will give you all your eyes can see. And so when I was in the legislature, I was a fierce debater. And that's how I got a lot of bills passed.
How did you become such a great orator? Like, you are the way that you connect all of the dots in such a simple, easy, concise way is really mind-blowing, to be honest.
Thank you.
How did you become?
I studied Malcolm X. By any means necessary, Dr. King.
Yes.
Malcolm X was a communicator. Dr. King was an orator.
Yes.
The best speakers make the fewest words go the farthest.
Yes, they do both.
And so I studied them because they mastered their craft. And Howard Thurman, who was a mentor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Billy Graham, I watched and I studied all of them. And I think I'm a combination of all of them.
Yes.
And you take some material that you believe in, it comes out of your heart, and you own it. You speak from that place of power.
Yes.
That you help people to discover their power voice and inspire them to do something different with their lives.
Wow. Wow. That's so true. Malcolm X is definitely straight into the point.
Great communicator.
Yes.
Yes. And Dr. King, I have a dream.
Yes.
So, that's another
Tell
level.
a story.
Yes.
And you enroll people into that story.
Yes. So when you see me speak in the Georgia Dome, though now I'm speaking as an orator, that speech I gave, it's not over till you win.
Yes.
Before 80,000 people.
Wow.
But when you see me speak in a short form, now that's the Malcolm in me.
Yes.
Or in an interview like you talking to me right now.
Yes.
I'm ready for you.
Yeah.
My mama beat the X out of me. Because I came home after I heard Malcolm X. And my sister, she ran and met me. She said, Leslie, you got to change your last name back to Brown. I said, my name is Leslie X. She said, Mama's going to beat the hell out of you. And so next day I went to school, I was Leslie Brown.
I know that's right.
Yeah, she beat that X out of me.
What's your legacy that you want to leave behind? I know you're working on some stuff right now.
I aspire to inspire until I expire.
Try, man.
Yeah, I aspire to inspire until I expire. That's what I want to do.
That's it. And inspire who and how and
the
why.
planet. We're in a place right now. We were chosen, you and I, out of 400 million sperm. We were selected. There's something in you, there's something in me, there's something in Sam, something in David. We were selected for this time. Who will go for us? I got some bad dudes. Sam, David, Daniel. Wasn't he in the lion den? Yeah, but he kicked the lions behind. Oh, okay. Les, yeah, Kimber, Lauren, yeah, Jerry. And we're gonna send them down there.
Yeah.
They got this. We're on assignment. We've been deployed.
To go do something.
Yes.
you are so like, it's so clear that you're on a mission and you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. How do you get somebody who doesn't know? And I'm going to give you an example. I'm working with somebody, she works for Oracle, big corporate company, doesn't love her job, wants to help impact children, but doesn't have a plan and doesn't have a mission. And how do you help somebody?
It's not that she doesn't have a plan, she doesn't have a reason. What kept me going? I ask you, what's important to you? Your family. Even if you went through a major downswing with your family, with your business, because of your vision of yourself and the compelling hunger in you to provide for your family,
Yeah.
you'll snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. She doesn't have a reason. You got to find out what the reason is, because you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have challenges, but your reasons will give you the comeback power. Your reasons will empower you. I had so many things happen to me, but I was so oblivious because giving up was not an option. I have a mother that was depending on me, that I said, Mama, I promise you, you will not go to nursing home. I promise you, I'll take care of everything. You don't have to do that, Leslie. I know, Mama, but I'm going to take care of you. So she needs a reason. You got to talk to her and find out what's most important to you, and talk from that place. Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. She doesn't have a reason that's big enough for her to say, I'm going to do this.